Hey guys, I'm Hellhound, and welcome to my Midnight Spook Show here on the Horror and Metal channel. I'm going to do another tag video today, one created by Sean Erschen from the Horror Corner. He did a good job, he had some great questions, but before we begin I just want to give a shout out to Last Venom 76. He recently had a very interesting tag video, Scavenger Hunt, in which he listed 10 clues to a movie, and you had to guess what movie it was. Sadly, only 3 people made a response and participated in the tag, which is also a contest, myself included. And he recently did a follow-up in which he revealed the winner of the contest and revealed the answers. I only missed 1 of them, so I got 9 out of 10, and the other 2 people participated got 8 out of 10, so I got the most amount of questions correct, and he also drew my name out of the drawing, so I actually won the contest, so feel very honored. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Last Venom 76. He's going to be sending me a $25 Amazon gift card. Again, I really appreciate that. I hardly ever win anything, so it's very exciting, and I think it was an excellent idea for a tag video as well. I wish more people had participated. But he got kind of discouraged and isn't going to make another one. But I definitely think he should. I strongly recommend that the scavenger hunt tags become the norm. I think it's an excellent idea. It's kind of fun and interactive way to guess the horror movies and stuff by the clues. I think that was a great idea. So I was glad to be a part of it. Again, yeah, I wish more people had participated, but what can you do? But yeah, very honored. Thank you again. Definitely check out Last Venom 76's channel. He's got some excellent content. And check out that video as well. And I strongly encourage that he make more. I think that was I think that was an excellent idea. Very neat concept for a tag video. All right, Last Venom 76. Thank you very much. Again, check out his channel, subscribe. Let's go and get started. Sean Ershen's Norman Bates tag. I'm a huge fan of the Psycho movies, so definitely excited to be doing this one. All right, the first question is, what is your favorite film in the Psycho franchise? Oh, definitely the original, the 1960 Alfred Hitchcock classic with Anthony Perkins and Janet Leigh. I think it's a flawless masterpiece, very well done. The twist at the end is still shocking. It's just excellent. Great performances, great directing. It's just perfect. It's one of my favorite classic horror movies ever made, and I think it was really interesting because up to that point it was mostly like we had a lot of monster movies, werewolves, vampires, Frankenstein's monster, stuff like that. And that was one of the earliest examples I can think of where they had a human villain. It was actually more realistic. That could really happen. I'm sure there are plenty of movies of human villains up to that point, but I think that one was one of the most groundbreaking and kind of the first of its kind, as well as probably one of the earliest examples of a horror movie having a really shocking, really well done twist at the end too. Alfred Hitchcock took a lot of liberties from the original novel written by Robert Bloch. But I think he actually improved on the source material, and I think the movie is actually better than the book, which is a very rare case. Usually that doesn't happen. But the book is still excellent, very well written. You should check it out if you haven't already. Great book. But yeah, the original is my favorite. Okay, question number 2. In Psycho 2, Norman is pushed to the edge of sanity. If he wasn't provoked, would he return to his murderous ways? Oh, very interesting question. Now, yeah, due to the meddling by the Loomis family, Lila Loomis, formerly played by Vera Miles, formerly Lila Crane, the sister of the late Marion Crane, who was murdered by Norman, her and her daughter, and also Mrs. Spool, and yeah, all these people like interfering with his life. He's just trying to be normal, live a quiet life. Really set him over the edge and made him, a murderer again. However, he's not actually the killer in the second film, but he does become insane again by the end of the second film, and the third film, yeah, he's a psycho killer again. Now, I don't think it would have happened as soon, but I think something would have set him off eventually. I think he still would have returned to his murderous ways at some point. Maybe not as soon as he did, maybe not as early as he did due to their meddling and provoking him, which is the whole plan, which they kind of succeeded in, even though they they kind of met their demise as well. I think it would have happened still eventually. Something would have happened, something would have snapped in his brain, but he poor guy, he was just trying to be normal. He's struggling. He really was dealing with a serious mental illness. He really couldn't help it. But I think something would have made him go back to the way he was. It just might not have been so accelerated. Okay, question number 3. Is Psycho 3 a slasher film? I think it's definitely more reminiscent of a slasher film. That was all the rage at that time when it came out. So it's a little less. I think it's a little less classy and sophisticated as the first two movies. I think it kind of goes for a more over the top gore and nudity and typical like slasher type style type premise. I still think it's a little more. There's a little more to it than your average slasher film. There's a little more meat to it, and Norman's a more interesting character than most of the slasher villains. He actually has a personality and has an identity, and has has a clear character, unlike some of the others that just kind of kill people and that's all they do. I think it's very reminiscent of a slasher film. It definitely emulates that style a lot. It was actually directed by Anthony Perkins, who of course played Norman as well. So yeah, I still love the movie. I still think it's highly entertaining. One of the most amusing, probably the most amusing of all of them. But yeah, it is a little less, sophisticated, I would say, as the first two movies, and a little more generic slasher territory. Though I still love it. It's kind of more about the body count and less about the the in-depth storyline. It wasn't as compelling or as insightful, and kind of more just kind of generic slasher fare. Though it's still pretty good despite being a little more standard. All right, question number 4. Do you think Psycho 4 should have either been a full prequel, a full sequel, or do you enjoy it the way it is? Well, I like the way they did it in that it actually was Norman Bates, which it kind of ignores the events of Part 3 and maybe even Part 2, I think. The continuity is a little messed up in this movie. There's some plot holes. There's some things that don't add up. There's some things that are retconned. That they kind of ignore some of the events set up in the previous movies. I won't get into that too much, but I'll say that I like the way that it's Anthony Perkins playing Norman, and he has he looks back to his past. He has flashbacks. It shows him and his mother. It shows her when she was young and she was alive, of course, and she was probably just as crazy as he was. And I like that setup. However, I think I could have done a lot better. That's my least favorite of the 4 Psycho movies. I mean, I'm not counting the remake or Bates Motel, or the movie Bates Motel, not the series, or anything like that. But I think it could have been done a lot better. But I do like the way they did it. Because otherwise, if it was a full prequel, Anthony Perkins probably wouldn't have been in it. And if it was a full sequel, they probably wouldn't have had much to do other than it's just the same thing yet again. So I think it's interesting seeing his story, seeing his mother's story, but it could have been done a lot better. Olivia Hussey was a good choice, but I don't know. They retconned a lot of the events of the other movies, and a lot of things didn't add up or make a lot of sense. So I think it could have been done a lot better. It's definitely the weak link of the 4 movies. Yeah, I do like the way they set it up, but it just could have been executed a lot more efficiently. All right, question number 5. Ooh, this is a good one. Which film is more influential to the slasher genre, Psycho or Halloween? Oh gosh, that's hard. Well, I feel like movies like Halloween may or may not exist without Psycho. Psycho definitely had a more bigger impact on the horror genre, I think, overall. Probably it inspired a lot of those movies. However, Halloween, I think, was directly responsible for starting that type of slasher movie in the 80s, like Black Christmas and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, I think, were the ones who made all those hundreds of 80s slasher movies so popular. I think they were all trying to kind of emulate the style of movies like Halloween, which in turn was probably influenced by Psycho. So it's kind of like, came full circle, Psycho influenced Halloween, and Halloween influenced all those other movies. So you could say they were all influenced by Psycho, from the beginning. But both movies are very iconic, very influential, a huge and integral part of horror history. I couldn't live without either one of them. So yeah, very good question. So again, I think Psycho was more influential overall and probably inspired Halloween, and movies like that would exist. However, Halloween was directly responsible for the ones in the 80s, which were all trying to cash in on Halloween's success. So great question, Sean Erschen. Kudos to you for coming up with that. All right, question number 6 is another good one. Norman Bates is based on real-life serial killer Ed Gein. Look that guy up if you don't know who he is, because wow, is he interesting. Do you agree with the choice to make Norman a more charming, handsome, and relatable character? Yes, I do, because actually in the book, Norman was like a slightly overweight, balding, middle-aged man who came off as kind of creepy. Whereas in the movie, Alfred Hitchcock made him young, thin, and like more handsome and more relatable. And which I thought made him kind of more unassuming and less obvious. Like I kind of thought it kind of makes it to where you wouldn't expect this guy to be a killer. Yeah, he's kind of a geek, and he's a mama's boy, of course, and he's a little weird. But you wouldn't expect him to be a full-fledged Looney Tune, as as Jeff Fahey puts it in Psycho 3. Um, but but yeah, I think that was an excellent choice. I think that was a good way to. I think that was an improvement. I think that was a good way to interpret the character. Again, the book is really well done, very good. But I think Norman Bates works better. Maybe just because I'm what I'm used to, and I sell the movie first. But I think he works better in that kind of way. He was more unassuming and less obvious, and so it's kind of more of an impact. It was more of a surprise when you found out it was him doing the killing. All right, question number 7. What are your thoughts on the Bates Motel TV series? Does it help or hurt the Psycho legacy? Well, hopefully it'll inspire people to actually go and watch the original, the original movies, and maybe read the book. But it really annoys me that every time somebody's talking about Norman Bates, they always talk about the Bates Motel TV series. Now, I think that Freddie Highmore and Vera Farmiga did a great job in their roles as Norman and Norma, respectively. I think they did an excellent job. They were very fun to watch. They were very believable in their part. And I started watching the series. I was getting into it. I was liking it. And then I read that a spoiler regarding the fates of Norman, Marion, and Sam Loomis, and I was not very happy with the direction they took it in. Too many changes, and I really didn't like it at all. So, not going to watch that show. And it's really a shame because the casting, yeah, it probably is a good show then. I'm glad people like it. A lot of people told me to change my mind and go and watch it. Well, maybe someday I will, but overall, I think they made some bad choices. Most of all, towards the end of the show. I think it started out really good and probably went downhill. That's my suspicion. So, all right, question number 8. If you had to remake Psycho, what would you do differently than Gus Van Sant? Well, I don't think you should remake Psycho. I don't think it should be remade. However, the 1998 version was way too similar. It was almost shot for shot the same movie as the 60s version, only in color. I think the cast was okay. I don't like Vince Vaughn as Norman Bates. He wasn't a good choice. But other than that, the other Julianne Moore and Viggo Mortensen, I think the cast was okay. William H. Macy, but it just was unnecessary. It just felt like, why'd they make this? They didn't expand on it or anything. But then again, Bates Motel did expand on the source material and made a lot of necessary changes. And so either it's too similar or too different, so it probably shouldn't be done unless, to answer the question, if I had to remake Psycho, I think I would follow the book. I think I'd make it closer to the book, because that's the only way you can really remake Psycho and have a proper case, have an actual an argument for a good movie, because they've followed the original movie to a T. Then they made Bates Motel, which followed the movie to a certain point, but made a lot of unnecessary changes and too many deviations from the source material. So I think the only way to go, follow the book, and then you can have the argument, it's not as good as the original, but it's closer to the book, so it'll have that going for it. So that's what I would do if I remade the remade Psycho. So. Good question. I'm sorry if I sounded really negative when talking about the Bates Motel show. I didn't mean to put it down that much. I know a lot of people like it and it has its fan off. And again, maybe we'll give it a chance down the line. I won't judge it properly until I actually see it. So I really don't like what I saw. And I don't watch many TV shows anymore because I don't have a lot of time. There's so many I need to watch. I'm really far behind, and put it like at the bottom of my list. So there's a lot of other shows I need to finish watching before I start a new one. So. But yeah, sorry, no disrespect if you like the show. Yeah, that's your thing. To each their own. I'm a huge fan of the Psycho movie, and I don't like what they did to it. Other than the casting of Norman and his mother, which were very well done. All right, okay, sorry. Question number 9. If you met Norman Bates and overheard him talking to Mother in the next room, how would you react? I'd be creeped out. I'd be freaked out. I'd probably get the hell out of there. I mean, that is if I knew what was going on. I mean, if I didn't know that, she was, dead and he was actually talking in her voice, I still think it was kind of weird maybe, because, I don't know, I feel like I could tell something weird was going on, something eerie. But if I knew what was going on, I would definitely probably get the hell out of there, because, I'm probably going to be, like, stabbed to death or something. But, he was a pretty likable guy other than that, But, yeah, all right, well, thank you guys for watching. That's all the questions. I hope I gave adequate enough answers. Thank you, Sean Erschen, for making the video. Thank you for tagging me. Great job. Love the Psycho movies. Alfred Hitchcock was a genius. Robert Bloch, who wrote the original novel, was also a genius, creating such a great character, Norman Bates. Anthony Perkins did an excellent job, as did Freddie Highmore in the series. So I've got to give them all credit where credit's due. Thank you guys for watching. I'm a Hellhound. This has been the Midnight Spook Show here on the Horror and Metal channel. So Until next time. And don't forget to check out Last Venom 76's channel and encourage him to make another scavenger hunt because I think it was an excellent idea. Alright guys, later.